Okay, we're back. Bookshop. Bookshop is a demo dataset built by Tableau. In fact, let's go to this page here. I'll just zoom back in. It's a demo dataset built by Tableau, and it's designed to help you learn how to use the data model. It's a specifically set out data model. And it's actually a really good standard dataset because as the data model has evolved, you've actually been able to do more and more with the Bookshop data model in order to demonstrate the data model. But for all intents and purposes, the only reason I'm using it is because I know it fairly well and it's already built for me as well. I'm lazy. So there's already a TDSX file. If you don't know, a TDSX file is a Tableau data source file. The X stands for packaged. And what that means is that the Excel file actually exists alongside the TDS file. The TDS file is the data source file. TDSX file has the data source file and the Excel file together in a package zip. That means when you open it, everything is good to go. So that's essentially what that means. And so what I want to do is use this as a baseline. So in the last video, what I did is I used a Superstore. I did some analysis. We drilled into sort of one subcategory. And what I said in that video is that, listen, the challenge with that data source is it was flat, and I was using Claude CoWork to sort of go through it. So it's actually quite fairly straightforward for it to do that because it's one table, it's one data source. You can pretty much just navigate through the data source fairly easily. What I wanted to do is see if Claude CoWork can overcome this challenge of a data model, being able to bring in multiple tables from different places, make the right connections between them, and arrive at a perspective of analysis, if that makes sense. And what I did in the last video is I didn't have any questions in my mind. I just asked it to sort of start looking at it, and I just checked the homework as we went along. So in essence, I have the data model set up. I have a blank workbook. We'll do the analysis inside of Claude CoWork, and we'll validate it here in Tableau. So you'll get to see the side-by-side comparison. And yeah, we'll just see how it goes. This is sort of the diagram. If you're not familiar with the data set, this is how the data set comes together, just for everyone's benefit. This signal here is a join. So the suggestion here is you create a logical view which comprises of two physical tables, so book and info, with this sort of join function here. So book ID 1 plus book ID 2. This should throw the AI off. We'll find out if it does or not. But I won't tell it any of that. I'll just say, look, do this analysis, and I'll ask it for information from this table, one of these other tables, and just see if it kind of figures it out. Okay. We've got sales, which are a union over here. That's another physical table that's brought together into a logical view that has our sales. Publisher goes to edition via publisher ID. So to get publisher information for any book, we have to go via edition. And for all these other tables, they're just basically one relationship away. So these are fairly straightforward. In all honest terms, you could join these as well one by one and get sort of the answers you want, but that would make the data source much larger. Hence, a relationship works in this case because you don't have to join 13 tables on to get, this mega table, as it were, which is also quite query intensive as well. Okay. Yeah. If you don't know about the data model, I should call out that me and Kirk have something called the Data Model Masterclass. We're nearly about to hit 10,000 views for something as dry as the data model, which means I think that video is a good thing. You should go and check it out. We tried to create it as like a one-stop shop to teach you everything you need to know about the Tableau data model. So go ahead and check it out. But here's the problem. AI can take everything that's taken me and Kirk in that video a really long time to learn and compress it into minutes. Then I think we do start to look at the inflection point of this technology actually starting to be able to be useful. I've not scripted this. I've not done this like the last one. It's completely unedited. So this is pretty rough. I have tried to record using slightly better setup, but I haven't got my camera or nothing. Just got a better mic just so it doesn't sound rough, which the last one did. So let's have a look at this. So if you see my last video, you'll saw what I did with the Bookshop dataset. I just opened this up and actually I pointed this folder to the Superstore direction over here. So this is what you can see is the previous one. All I've done now is pointed to the Bookshop dataset in here. And in that folder, let me just try and bring it up on screen. In that folder, I have these CSV files. Well, you might ask, well, how did I get Bookshop into separate CSV files when in fact they have one Excel file on the Tableau website? I built a tool and I used AI to do that. I literally wrote one prompt and I said, hey, I'd like you to build a Python tool that takes any Excel file and turns it into separate CSVs for each sheet. That was the prompt. It did it in about 2 minutes. I ran the Python script. It worked first time. It's worked ever since. And I've use that ongoing basis. It just sits on my desktop as a tool, and I just call it from the command line, and that's pretty much it. So that's what I've used in this particular case. Pretty straightforward, and that's what we're going to do. Now you'll see that it actually, labeled everything correctly. So everything's called Bookshop, and then it's got the name of the table. So the AI should be able to sort of figure its way through this. So I'll just start with like a initial prompt. I don't always start with a question. I just start with an initial prompt just to make sure it understands what's in the folder. So what's in this folder? Okay. Now it goes up. It will check the folder. It will ask, hey, can I look at this folder? I'll say yes. It will send a request. I'll check what's in the folder. And when you see something called working, you can actually view the steps in a lot more detail, right? So when you say list contents of the selected folder, it's basically running command behind the scenes to read this folder. So this could be a command line prompt. It could be a Python prompt. It could be a bunch of different prompts. But let's have a look at this. Your folder contains Bookshop data spread across 15 CSV files. Here's what's there. Reference data, authors, Bookshop edition, publisher, series, award, and info. Okay. The book catalog is actually there, which is interesting to call that reference. Transactional data, sales, Q1 through Q4, quarterly sales data. These are the largest files, totaling 3.2 meg. Good context. Checkout, library/rental checkout records, rating, CSVs, customer rating. This looks like a complete Bookshop database. Correct. Separate tables. Would you like me to do something with this data like analyze sales trends, create a report, or explore any particular aspect? So we're going to analyze sales trends, but what I want to do is just see where it takes me. And if I was being an analyst inside of a business, I would probably have a specific question in mind, but I don't want to ask something too specific. What I really want to do is just see what kind of analysis the tool can do on its own volition. So me not asking anything. And then try and see if I can sort of show you what it's doing as much as I can, as much as this tool allows me to, and then go and check that and validate that. And then we'll get into sort of the drilling into the questions. We'll try and throw out some questions to throw it off track. So I am actually going to use analyze sales trend. Now, if you watch my previous video, you'll know that I use a tool called Handy. So let me just make sure that's running. Handy, there you go. All good. Let's do this. I'd like to analyze the sales trends and pull out some pertinent information about books that I should be paying more attention to in this sales data. There you go. I said my prompt and it's just typed it out. So let's go ahead and do that. So I ask a very sort of bland question. Basically, I have no clue. Tell me where to look. I'll analyze the sales data and identify books that deserve more attention. Let me start by exploring the data structure and then digging into the trends. So that's already a really good step. If you notice on the right-hand side, it's gone and got the artifacts. The artifacts are the files that it's currently processing. So it's only got book, author, edition, sales Q1, and ratings.csv. Now, you'll see it's got the steps. It's gone and got those books. Then it's run a command, count the sales records per quarter, find top-selling ISBNs across all quarters, running command. Now, this is interesting because the ISBNs are in a very sort of different place. Let's try and see what it's done. Count sales records, find top-selling ISBN, comprehensive sale analysis. Excellent. Now let me identify specific books you should pay more attention to with actionable insights. Okay. It's a bit black box because I'm still not seeing the exact queries that it's doing here. In Claude chat, you would be able to dig into these and drill into these and see what it's doing. So excellent. Now let me identify specific books. Let's view the steps. Identify books needing specific attentions with reasons. Now I have a comprehensive picture. Let me summarize this for you. Sales trends and books needing your attention. Key overall trends. Total sales is 56,000 units across all quarters. Seasonal pattern. Strong Q3 surge, 22,000 versus Q1. Q4 stabilization. Sales settled at 13,000 units. Top priority. Books you should focus on. The Startling End of Mr. Hidhu by Jonathan Kotzwinkel. Why? A 475% growth, 4.4 rating, but only 76 sales. Action. This is your biggest hidden gem, premium priced with explosive momentum. Consider featuring it prominently. Okay. Hashtag Quokka Selfie by Longston Lipman. Okay. Action. Something is driving sudden interest. Investigate why and capitalize on it. That's pretty good. Kala Avenue by Elmer Komroff. 4.3 with 1,000 reviews, but only 398 sales. Heavily reviewed, but underselling. Okay. That's interesting. If it's heavily reviewed, but underselling, that would suggest obviously we don't sell everything that's been reviewed. So maybe there's a marketing or visibility, just letting people know that we have the book, even if it's very popular. That's actually a good spot. Banana Slug and the Glass Half Full by Gloria Green. Why 4.3? 1,000 reviews, strong Q3, 9% growth. Action children's book with seasonal appeals. Stock up for next Q quarter. I actually really like these very clear actions. They're very good. I have to check them, but they're not just like, hey, some of them are like, dig into this more, do this specific thing. Hey, there's a seasonal pattern here. You should do this. Your revenue powerhouse, keep in stock. Okay. Authors to watch. The breadth of analysis here is wild. Like there's a lot here. I could not have done this in the same amount of time it took to do this, but okay. So here's the thing. In the last video, everyone said to me, oh, you can't trust this stuff. Okay. You cannot trust this. You have to check everything. I was like, well, listen, what I'll say is your senior colleagues, your leadership in your organization are paying attention to the point when you don't have to check this stuff, right? And the minute that is even remotely possible, the inflection point will come. I will go and check the majority of this, but I won't check everything. I will sort of try and get a cursory view of this data. And probably this is plenty for this video. So I will ask more specific questions about each of these things. So I'll dig into them a little bit more detail and we'll start to find out. So we'll just start very basic. Good. Total sales, 56,000 units across all quarters. So let's go over to Tableau. Okay. And our sales table is this one here. So we can have sales count and the sales order sale date is what we want. So let's just go and put that across and let's use quarters. So we've only got 4 quarters of data, CSVs, that's fine. 56,350. I'm looking here at the bottom where it says sales count, 56,350. So that's accurate, I believe. That's 56,000. It does use a wavy bracket, so it's not being exact. That is, to be fair, it's using grammar correctly. It's just giving me the summary, so that's fine. I should have put a prompt to ask it to always use precise numbers, but that's by the by. Seasonal patterns, strong Q3 surge. Yep, we've seen that. It's right there. And almost 3 times growth mid-year. Q4 stabilization, sales trend settled at roughly 13,000 units. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's go ahead. Let me actually close this because we don't need this anymore. It's going to confuse me every time. Yeah, 13,000 sales, just 93 sales over that. Okay, so all of that is correct so far. Okay, top priority books you should focus on. Now, this is interesting because it skipped a whole bunch of steps right into like specific books. So The Startling End of Mr. Heedhu by Jonathan Kotzwinkel. Okay. Biggest gem, premium priced, $22 with explosive momentum. So the pricing is also going to be in the book info page, right? So I believe the book info page, the pricing is a good question actually, because I think it's just going to be at a line item level, right? So if I just take a single order and we say add all members and I just do sale count just to see that it's the right thing. Yep. And then you got the discount, but actually, no, you don't have the price in here. So how would you know the price? You know the number of sales amount. And let's just check this. It's been done for us. It's price, which comes from which table? Which table does price come from? I don't have to look for it. I can just type it. And it comes from addition. So addition. And then you do minus the discount. So it's basically 100% minus whatever this would give you the actual price of the book. So if the discount is 0.2, that's a 20% discount. So 1 minus 20% means it's 80% of the price. That's 80% minus price multiplied by price, which will give you the sales amount. Okay, so that's how they've done it. And so we can actually bring this over here. Just put it, why did I do that? I didn't mean to do that. That was a really bad idea. I want to put it here for now. Okay, so we can see the price just underneath. So you can see each line item price. And then if I go get the book with the book title, book title, you can put that after the order ID. You'll see, there we go. Okay, so we get to see each individual book. Some of these have different versions, right? Or different orders, to be fair, so that's fine. And then the ISBN, that comes from a different table, so we can go ahead and do that. And that pretty much gives us the nice list where we can check everything we need to check. All right, so we will also go get the title. And in here, we can say none, hit apply, and then we can go and get our title. So the Startling End of Mr. Hoodoo by Jonathan Kotzwinkle. Okay, so let's go back in here. Let's put this in and just keep that only. Come on, I hit apply. Okay, good. Here are all the transactions. 76 transactions. I'm looking at the bottom cell here, count of sales. How many does it say? 76. That is accurate. 4.4 star rating. So let's go ahead and get that. 4.4 star rating. So the rating is going to be, man, this is tough because I cannot remember what anything used to be. Where is this? Where is the ratings in the rating table? Surprise, surprise. So rating is an interesting one. If I put it on text for now, you'll see it says does a sum. It shouldn't be a sum, I believe. Let's just do average to get the lowest score. Yeah. So what it's doing is it's adding it as many times as it's seeing the book, which is why you get that total. And I think it's because of the way the table is related. So if we go into edit the data source, ratings is, if we hover over this line, let's just do this, is connected by book ID. So for every book, you'll have a rating. So that's why that number was a bit high, because the relationship is somewhat a little more tricky. 4.3 is a rating, I believe. 4.4, 4.370. And here it's going to be the same for every book, so that's fine. What we could do is we could put the rating here for now and make it discrete. And then you could bring it forward. So you could do this, bring the title forward. There you go. So there's your rating. These are all the orders that relate to that book. Then we don't get repeating lines. So it's a little bit more, it's a bit easier to see what's going on. So the sales amount, some of these have reduced price, actually. You can see that they, like, some of the transactions have a different price. That's probably because there was a discount, right? Let's go find that out. Let's put that on there. I should really put it here and say this is discrete just so we can see that. So yeah, some of them have discounts, some of them don't have discounts. You can see the reason the price changes is because it's different. So far, we've just built out a table. We've validated some of the core information. And hopefully you've seen how this analysis would work. But this is more exploratory analysis rather than like visualization. So yeah, premium book price at $22. Is that actually correct? Yes, it is. $20 here. What we'll do is because it's each line is a record, the sum is basically the same thing. So yeah, we'll leave that there. So you can see it's $23, 20 when it's on discount. What it's suggesting is consider featuring it prominently. So this is your biggest hidden gem, premium priced, 475% growth. Okay. So let's validate that. So what we can do, we can take out the order ID detail here. Okay. 76 transactions. What I'll probably do is actually, can I clear the shelf? Yep. So you just get our 76. We filter to the one book, go get our sales date up here on the top and go do quarter. And then we can put this on rows. So there you go. You've had your big jump in sales, percentage difference. So 0%, 318%, and difference to the previous one, 37.5% on Q1 to Q2. This is an interesting one. So if I bring count of sales back, sales, just put that next to each other there. So we get this. So we started at an 8 and then we've gone to 46. This is 318%. So this is an interesting one. Is this wrong? 475% growth. Let's just take this. Can you explain the 475% growth? Because I see a different number. I want to know if it's like relative to a specific point in time. Okay. So it's given the formula pretty quickly. What this means, the book sold 5 times more couple in Q4 than it did in Q1. So it's versus Q1 rather than month to month. So if you don't know, you can do this inside of a Tableau. It's doing the previous, right? So we can go in here to this quick table calculation, select first, And now every one will be relative to the first one. So now our bottom chart obviously is 0% compared to Q1. Now it's 37% compared to Q1. Now that's 37% compared to Q1. Here's a big number, 475% accurate. Spot on. So that detail of explaining it would have been nice if it was there, but actually the analysis is bang on. Okay. So yeah, the first piece of analysis, pretty good. Pretty good. And by the way, that took me 5 minutes to validate and probably go through the thing. And by the way, I also started with a completely open-ended question. I just said, hey, just tell me something interesting. And it was like, here are very precise things. It'd be interesting if I found, let's say, 20 other things that were more interesting, more compelling. But then I didn't ask it for that, right? So if I have an opinion, I should share it and let it do the analysis. But if I don't, these 5 things, well, at least the first one looks pretty good. Everything checks out. Okay, let's do one thing. So we go to the data set. And so we had some book information. We had some ratings information. We had some sales information. So that means it must have also grabbed the edition. You can't get to sales without edition. Okay. So this is super interesting. Now, I wish I hadn't closed that web page. I'm going to have to open it again. Here we go. I didn't close it. I minimized it. Thank goodness. ISBN is only an edition, and edition is only in book ID to this and then ISBN, right? So the journey to get the sales data had to traverse through book, edition, and sales Q1, right? There's no other way it could have done it. Now, in earnest, I can't see the Python that it did behind this to actually get to this. So I can't validate how it's doing this. It could have built the table separately and just basically did the analysis. It stitched the analysis together. It's not using a data model like constructs to do it, but it's just doing the steps and basically saying, right, I have sales have ISBN's edition, and book ID is over here. So to get there, it's having to do this stitch, right? So the price information is also here, which is pretty accurate. I could ask it, hey, can you give me the page number, or can you tell me the genre, just to see how it's processed that. But that doesn't mean it's used this data model. It could have used a different way of getting to the same answer. Doesn't have to be efficient, doesn't have to be fast, because it's not in the construct of Tableau. So honestly, it could have done it anyway. They all lead to the same answer, and if that makes sense. So that's pretty, I think that's pretty interesting. Yeah, I'm still yet to see this thing get something wrong. Now, let's look here. I could explore these 5 questions, but I think that would just get very boring. So I've done this. Go investigate it yourself. Get Claude CoWork. Try this yourself. If you find something different, you find it wrong, let me know in the comments. I will check one more thing. Spark and the Ashes by Ursula Kareen. Then we'll go into the rest of analysis. So the Spark and the Ashes. Let's go back to sheet 2. And that's going to be a fairly easy one to just say none, Spark and the Ashes, hit apply. So I've got this chart now. I can just very quickly change the thing. So here we go, 51, 75, 135, 69. This is exactly what Tableau is very good at, exploratory analysis. By the way, like most people don't use Tableau like this, right? Like most people build a dashboard and then send it out to their team so their team can do this kind of stuff. But like this to me is like the sole reason why Tableau Desktop is still extremely valuable. Being able to do this. And why I think this is an inflection point is because it looks like Claude Code is giving people a natural language way of doing it and giving reliably correct answers. Okay, that's a big deal. 4.4 rating, 1,000 reviews, only 300 sales, 330 sales, high review engagement with a poor conversion. Is it a pricing issue? Okay, so this one's an interesting one. 330 sales. Let's go and check that. Is that right? Yep, 330 sales according to the bottom here. And lots of volume. Okay. 1,000 reviews. Let's ask the question about why poor conversion. So what does it mean, poor conversion? Can you explain the poor conversion and I'll just do this. And I'm still typing. It's something when I'm focusing, I just type all the time. But when I'm actually like very like just starting a task, I use this tool like as opposed to, I just forget sometimes. Okay. To understand why it was high engagement but low sales conversion. So it did that analysis, but I'd love to know what's its reasoning. It's almost flipped the question, right? It almost sounds like I've asserted this and now it's going to figure out my assertion when actually I was just restating this. And I think it's because of the way I wrote the prompt. I wrote the prompt in a way that asserts the facts. So I should have said, can you explain why you think that poor conversion? In fact, this is AI. We can stop it. I can tell it to stop. So I can take this and say, it's still probably running in the background, so I'll probably mess this up. Can you explain why you think there was poor conversion for the spark and the ashes? So this is a bit more appropriate. So I'm asking it, can you tell me why you think this is? Okay, so good question. Let me clarify what I meant. This is the prompt I should have done for that book. Okay. Number of views is that. Total sales is that. Reviews to sales ratio. Okay, that's a metric. That's very cool. It's 3.4 reviews per sale. Typically, only a small percentage of buyers leave reviews. Industry norms suggest maybe 1 to 10% of purchasers review your product. So you'd expect normal ratio of 0.01. Oh my God, that's chef's kiss, isn't it? That's actually really good. 1 review for 0 sale. This book has 3.4 reviews per sale. That's inverted. There are more reviews than sales, which is unusual. This assumes that the reviews dataset is our own dataset, right? We could have bought the reviews data from somewhere else. Why am I even guessing? It's given some explanations. Reviews from other sources. The ratings data might include reviews from library borrowers, other retailers or aggregated sources, not just your shops. Historical sales not captured. Great shout. Having samples. Advanced reader copies. I didn't even know that was a term. You could generate reviews. Data quirk, the ratings and sales data may come from different time periods. Exactly. Great question. Yeah, good point. We only have 1 year's worth of data, but the reviews could be historical. I may have overstated pure conversion. What the data actually shows is, good correction. This book has stronger reader engagement, but relatively modest sales compared to other books with similar review units. It's not necessarily a conversion problem. It might just be the book hasn't had enough visibility to turn the positive word of mouth. Okay, would you like me to dig into the raw data to compare review to sales ratios across other books to see if this pattern is consistent? Yes. Be my guest. It could be innocuously explained by just being, hey, we have 1 year's worth of data, but our reviews data is a table and contains reviews from almost the historic sort of nature of the book. So it could be the book's been around for 3 years, but we're just analyzing sales from 1 year. Actually, right at the average, 3.28 for your Bookshop. So I was wrong to single it out as having poor conversion. It's performing normally. So this is the first example of where I would say you've seen this issue of assertion where like AI sees one thing and it goes, wrong, this is wrong, without doing this bit, which is like going down that sort of trail of thought and actually doing the investigation. Now, the review ratio, I'm not going to go bother checking that because there's not a time where I haven't done the math and it hasn't checked out. But it's the assertions, it's sort of the steps that it's going through to sort of make these sort of comparisons that are somewhat broken. So that is where you still need what I would call a data analyst, literally in the business sense rather than the data sense, to come in and ask these questions like, someone who's smart enough to know, but yeah, here is a business reason why that could be the case. Let's dig into that assertion. And so someone like that will probably come into this with a much more precise sort of fine tip tool or perspective to ask good questions about the data that this tool could then run with. So if I try and sort of explain the balance of where this tool so far would be good, is if you're not relying on it for the, hey, tell me what to think of my data, and instead you have some specific opinions or a specific investigation you'd like to do with your data, and you can come in here and get it to just raise a focus on that thing. Basically get it to do the maths for you, and the whole time you've got like a language interface that you can use with it, but you're not having to do what requires the data analyst skill set, which is understand the data model, understand how to open up Tableau. In simple terms, imagine you don't need to use a Tableau interface, but you've still got the ability to ask fantastic questions, but all you need is a keyboard. That's essentially what I think this tool so far is showing that it can do very, very well. Okay. So I'm still quite happy with this. Now, I had a conversation with Kirk and we weren't sure if this would be able to do the strings of being able to connect all the data sources. So what I want to pivot to now is it's clearly demonstrated that it was able to do that because the sales data that we asked it to analyze and all the information that it pulled about the price all came from all of these different tables. So what I'm going to ask it to do is something rather unusual. I'm going to ask it to explain the relationship between all the data sets, right? Basically, hey, I'm trying to understand this data. Can you explain the relationship between these tables? I won't guess at it and we'll see if it does it. So I'll say, okay, this is where I should type because it'll be much faster. Okay, I've been challenged by my data team to understand how you've built the relationship between each of these tables. Could you map out how you understand these tables come together and also map out how you've used them to respond to the questions I've asked so far? Okay, so bigger prompt, very abstract. Let's see if you can do it. Okay, so this is more of like, hey, show me your homework. Okay, it just came straight away. Let me map out the data model. Oh, nice. Here we go. So author and book. Okay, a book ID goes to edition ratings and award. Edition goes to ISBN. Oh my God. That is wild. Let me just take a screenshot of this. I'll show you why in a second. Let me just do this. Okay, then we can go back to here. There we go. I can close this down. And let's just compare these two and see how off it was. So book info, interestingly, it didn't need the book info. So it didn't even bring it into its analysis, which if you were doing this as a query, SQL query, that is exactly what Tableau does behind the scenes, actually. When it fires off the query to go and get this data, it sees that it doesn't need anything from info, so it doesn't include it in the info. Now, the book links to the author via a publishing author ID. That is correct. Primary key, foreign key. Very good. It links to series via series ID. Primary key. Very good. And it's actually showing that here. Then it goes to book ID to edition. Correct. Oh, but this is interesting. You see, it has book ID and book ID. Oh, very interesting. And what it doesn't tell me is how it's brought the book ID information together. So does it spell this out anywhere else? Let's see. I mean, it's done a lot of like, wow, this is as a way of just discovering data, this is actually not bad at all. So imagine you're a data analyst, you just want like a simple place to get started. So here we go. It didn't have to bring the info and the book information together, so it never needed to do the join calculation with book ID and book ID 1. So it got away with it. Everything was just using a single field. So this is actually all correct. Addition and everything is fine. Now, info, additional metadata. And let me ask it the question. So how would you bring in the info table if I wanted to know the genres of the books we've looked at? Let's ask it that one specific question to see if it trips up on this join calculation. It's at least a join calculation of what it's called. So it's updated. Let me first check what's in the info table to understand. Few steps. It read the file. Well, great step. Now I can see the structure. Here's how the info table fits in. Okay, so you see here, it does slip up. Book ID 1, it says the foreign key for book ID. That is not the case. So first part of the composite book ID, oh no, it does get it right. It does put composite key here. Can you see it just didn't place it correctly? Wow. Yeah, composite key, book ID 1. Very smart. So TM, the genre, okay. So key insight, the book ID in the other tables like TMI is split into 2 columns here. To join, you need to concatenate book ID 1. How did I assume it? I was wrong. Okay. How to join our existing fields. It's actually got the Python fine. And it didn't need to do the Python here. It just wrote it out, which is a little bit shit. Don't know why it just didn't show me the Python, but that's fine. Now I can show you the complete picture. Okay. So there you go. It takes all that. Genres for the books we discussed. Oh, wow. So let's actually go and check what book have we got in here. So the Spark and the Ashes. Did it do that correctly? Yes, because this is technically part of it. So we can put it in here. Genre. Young adult for the Spark and the Ashes. So let's see if it got that right. The Spark and the Ashes. Where did that go? Young adult is in there, but it did not. It missed one of the books, to be fair. It missed one of the books, so that's fine. Let's check the one that we did start with. What is that called? The Startling. Actually, is that even one of the first ones, or is it hallucinated new books? This potentially could be hallucination. So let's just see. Okay, so there, here we go. What was one of the first books? The Startling End of this. Okay. We did do The Spark and the Ashes by Ursula Karenine, but it didn't put it in there. So that's a good detail there. So the hallucination here has missed a book that we did do analysis of. Okay. The Startling End of Mr. Heedhu is okay. But some of these were not part of the original analysis for sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books now. There were only 5 books, and I don't believe any of them have suddenly turned up in our analysis. So let me just go and do like a thorough check. The actual conversion issue is never okay. I did bring some other books into this check, but they weren't the same 3. Okay. It's hard to know where it thinks those books were coming from. So, okay, the revenue powerhouses, here they are. So let me just, this is the thing. I don't even know if there's this sort of, I'll say that I don't have perfect memory. So actually another issue here is that it's spitting so much data out at me that I'm not even able to remember the full context of everything it said to me. So, like, in a weird way, gosh, am I subpar compared to the computer? Like, should I be worried? I'm trying to take a screenshot of every book. I'm just going to leave it on screen just so we can see this and check. Your bestsellers, blah, 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 Land of Sky's Best. Okay, so these are all the books, right? So I have on screen every book. So let's go check and critique its last list. Okay. So the last list it came up with. Okay. The Startling End of Mr. Thingy. That is in there. Hashtag Quokka Selfie. That's in there. Color Avenue. These 3 are all up here. Banana Slug and the Glass Half Full. Not in there. Fine. The Malamara King is there. Riswith is there. Port Mirion is there. 9083 is there. So indeed, none of these are hallucinations. They were all in the analysis. The issue was my prompt, right? So what did I say in my prompt? How would you... Okay. So, oh, no, don't drop it in. No. I don't want that. I want that. So the issue is this prompt. So I can't edit this prompt. You can't sort of go back in this sort of reasoning approach. So let me say this. How would you bring in the info table if I wanted to know the genres of all the books we've looked at in this conversation, if I can put that in quoted speech mark? Does it come back with all of them? 1, 2, yeah, it should be. Okay, so it does that. Now, okay. Okay. It does them now properly. So Banana Slug is in there. It's actually done it in order of the analysis that we did. So these were the first 5. These were the next 4. Spot on. And then Lace and Brandy and Lady Water Sky Space. Now, this one, these were here. I just closed it. That's my bad. There's a third one in there that it didn't grab, I think. Don't check your ego. And it's never a glass. So let's just take a screenshot of this. And let's go all the way down. This is kind of like very tedious. Lady Water Sky Spice. It's never just a glass is not in there. Don't check your ego is not in there either. Lacey and Brandy. Lace and Brandy is not in any of those. Oh, am I? No. That was the end. Okay. It did a pretty good job, but it did miss a few. And that's me being a pedant. It technically wasn't correct before. When I say all, it's missing a few. It just doesn't have that thing. So again, should you trust a process that can't remember all the work that it's done? That's sort of the question, right? Because it has missed some. That's partly hallucination. That's also partly context. There's also there's a term for it, which is kind of known as like things like context bleeding or something like that in the AI industry, where it just slowly loses bits of information the longer the conversation carries on, and the bigger the context, the more of these you start to get. So maybe I'm also starting to hit the limit of like, oh, this is the analysis I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. If I was to go and start a new analysis, what I should do is actually go to a new chat and start again, give it the same folder because I don't have to create a copy of these files, and then start that analysis again. But it's almost very inefficient because what you'd love to do is keep this context of the way it's brought the data together and just be able to constantly have a conversation with the data source. So this is something that Tableau and all those tools do really well. You set up your data model, you can just keep going back to it and building on it. You can't necessarily guarantee that it will do these upper parts reliably every single time. It's not deterministic. It's to an extent probabilistic based on what it's seeing in the file. It might come to a different reasoning in a different line of questioning. It's just the way the technology works. Interesting. Okay, I've been going for 44 minutes. I said I wouldn't edit this. This is probably a good time to stop this. Hopefully the timestamps help, but I just wanted to do this experiment just to see where this goes. I do think this is something really interesting, like in a huge way. All the other ones, when you go into AI and you ask it to do maths and it gets it wrong, like that was never the goal. At least from a data perspective, it's this stuff, right? And the interface is not great. I've not seen a single chart. It's all text. But then again, like a lot of people just like to read stuff. And if this is going to be this accurate, great. If you can ask it to do charts, great. In fact, let's ask it that. Hey, can you do a deck on all of this analysis, right? Including charts and captions to explain the trends. Okay, let's just see what it does in one shot. Let's close this off. Can you create something that goes off and does it? Now, interestingly, it's gone and written a prompt based on my prompt. It's like, yeah, that wasn't enough, Tim. It's used the skill to beef up my prompt. It's taken that prompt and literally written a much better prompt. Wow. Okay. That's the prompt I should have written to get a really reliable response. It's visualized all the slides and it's gone through the steps. Wow. It's really gone ham on this. Like, it did that very fast. There's going to be mistakes in that. View steps. Okay. It's read HTML something markdown, which is this thing. It's read the CSS markdown. Now I have a full understanding of the workflow. It kind of wrote itself markdown in HTML. Let me create a comprehensive presentation with charts analyzing the Bookshop data. So update to-do list, create a presentation workspace, update to-do list, generate comprehensive chart data for presentation. Now we'll create the HTML slides with a bold and editorial design. I'm choosing an editorial magazine aesthetic with a deep teal navy color scheme and coral accents to make the data pop right in the file, creating the CS file. So, okay, boom. What I expected to do is to put it in here. Oh, there it is. There's the presentation folder. It's busy writing the HTML. is writing a HTML page for every slide. This is like ridiculous, isn't it? I'll just leave this on screen so you can see what it's doing. It's a bit broken because it's doing this one slide at a time. And this is no doubt going to use a ton of AI credits. Like each and every one of these HTML pages, the prompt to write it is a query off to Claude Code, and it's just going to kind of chug on this. So let's see. Slide 5, for books. Slide 6. This is pretty impressive. Even just, I know this is going to be garbage when I open it. I'm sure it will be, but like, I think I keep saying to people, this stuff doesn't get worse; it only gets better. And it's easy to look at it now and say, "Oh, it's not quite there yet," until it's there, right? And then suddenly you've got a different conversation. So to my point of the post I made on LinkedIn earlier, like last week, lean into this stuff. You need to understand what all of these steps are. Like, where are the gaps? A bit like I just did in this video. I kind of went through and I said, hey, maybe it might be good at actually helping you drill into a data set, but you're not trusting it to choose the direction or to choose a nuance. You might want to check the maths a few times just to make sure it works out, but it might actually help you drill into something where you already have a perspective, but don't have the time to learn Tableau and learn all these other tools. So it's creating, what is this? Slide 8. What are we? Slide 9? Yes, doing slide 9. I don't know if you see it. It happens very, very quickly. Oh, it's done the 9 slides. Great. Updating to list, creating presentation.js is like the JavaScript file for that. That's really like ridiculous. Yeah, wow, okay. HTML2 PPTX is like a HTML, must be a HTML library for PowerPoint slides. And presentation.js must be the JavaScript that runs it all. So, and the to-do list, we can't see it, but actually, you can see over here on the top right hand side. If we just limit these, I can't really expand this more. So, building the PowerPoint presentation, visualize, validate, and fix any visual issues. Oh, this okay. I've seen this happen before, and it's absolute dumpster fire. So it does actually write the HTML. Then it uses that HTML to build the presentation. And the way the tool works is it goes from HTML to PowerPoint. That's exactly how it works. And the validate and fix any visual issues is like a weird one because it's based on what it sees, right? It's generating the PowerPoint. Let me just go back to this folder so you can see what's going on. So it's got Node. Node. It's just installed a bunch of dependencies that I don't want to know about. Oh, the Playwright browser download is blocked. Let me use an alternative. I'll create the presentation directly with PPTX Gen.js without the HTML2 PPTX conversion. Wow, that's a very... And yeah, if you're sat there paying for AI credits, this is going to be costly. If I just go to my settings and go to usage, yeah, we've used nearly 10%, and I haven't used Claude before I started this video. So just this interaction, I'm on Claude Max. I get sort of 5 times more capacity than the Pro plan. And I've used 10% nearly of my allocated usage within the session. Now, a session is classed as a certain period of time. The weekly limits, 2%. Yeah, I probably wouldn't actually get through that because I've got until Thursday. But the current session is actually quite allowing. So let's go back to, there we go. Oh, here we go. It's still struggling. Oh, it is there. It is there. It is there as a file. There's a PowerPoint. Let's move the file. Okay. Okay. Drum roll, please. Here we go. Bookshop sales trends, insights, opportunities, and recommendations. I have to say, back in the day, people used to burst reports for this very reason. Okay. And I'm not going to lie, like numbers accuracy aside, this is pretty scary. This is pretty scary. It's not a great looking deck. It's not branded. I didn't tell it a brand, but this looks like if I'd struggle to understand how by the end of this year, this was not already performing at a higher standard than it already is now. Just even this, like getting the book reviews out, this is already sort of more sort of meeting ready than something like in Tableau, right? Like Tableau itself is a product. You have to browse, you have to go look at it, how the data connects. It's nice that it's done this. It's actually quite useful. Promote hidden gems, leverage Bianca Thompson, investigate growth drivers. Oh man, that's not bad. That is not bad at all. Yeah. And yeah, this is the second time I'm using this tool. I'm sure if I use this tool every day for a couple of hours to find out all the places, all the nooks and crannies where it's good and where it's not, yeah, we're having a different conversation in a couple of months' time. Easily. So yeah, I'll keep pushing on that. I'll keep sort of playing around with it, see what I can do. The thing that just is wild to me is that I didn't need a single business intelligence tool to go and do this. And you might say, well, yeah, you've got Claude Max, but then, Claude Max is not just our data analysis tool. It can also write scripts. It can also write Python. It can also code. It can also help me with my writing. It's a multi-purpose, on-demand software idea generation, like creative tool. Like it's pretty broad what it does. So you can easily see why companies will be worried about pretty much all the industries collapsing into AI. A bit like how all the cameras collapsed into the smartphone. Camera industry is just now $2,000 cameras and nothing else below that because your smartphone already does that basically. Okay, so I closed that on the PowerPoint deck, but then I messaged Kirk and he asked me a question. He said, hey, can it do the checkout to sales ratio for the top 3 books in the dataset? And it looks about right. I'm not going to check this now because the video is too long, but I'll leave this on screen just so you can see like a question that at least Kirk and I think is difficult for it to do, right? The checkout to sales ratio for the top 3 books in the data set. And it comes out with this, right? Okay. And then I ask you, hey, how did you do this with the data? Can you show you're working? And so basically this is the steps it's taken. So the challenge is that checkout and sales are stored differently. Spot on. Checkout to book ID, monthly checkout contains directly by book ID. Sales, individual sales transactions by ISBN. So one is like order ID level. Another one is monthly aggregated data. Sales are recorded by ISBN. Checkouts are recorded by book ID. I need to convert ISBNs to book IDs to compare them. Really smart, astute bit of analysis. All right. So it does sales, converts them to ISBN, counts the sale per ISBN. Great. Next step, takes additions, gets the ISBN to book ID, converts all those ISBNs to book ID, looks up the book ID for each ISBN, compares the total. Okay. Boom. Then goes to checkouts, then counts the checkouts per book ID because the checkouts is per book ID. Then it compares and it brings everything across. It's got like a little bit of code saying, hey, step 1, you do this. Step 2, you do that. Step 3, you do that. It's doing it in Python. Get top 3 book totals, calculate the ratio, yada, 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 yada. That's the sort of how it does it. Then I'm saying, well, can you do this in a time dimension to the top 3, break it down by month for each book, for the top book. So the Malamarocking, which is the top book, apparently. And it goes and it does it. Boom. And we could go check this in Tableau. It would actually be a little bit tricky. I'd need to sort of make sure I spend a bit of time actually figuring it out. But I'm going to leave this in the recording. And in the next video, we'll go through this. And the reason I came back is I'm actually now really interested throw me your worst. People always say, oh yeah, but every business data is like a mess, right? Like it's never this clean. It's never like this. And true, Bookshop and Superstore are super clean. So what I'll say is, listen, if you've got mock data that you think is challenging, I already think this tool has proven that it interrogates the data better than a junior to mid-level analyst. 100%. Like no one can tell me that a junior or mid-level analyst can do the same level analysis as fast as it's done them, as accurately and as eloquently, and then display the information in their PowerPoint very clearly with actions and next step, as if it understands the business. Like no one person could do that out of the gate as quickly as this tool has done it. That said, it was an easy data set. So I would love if anyone has a publicly available data set with some challenging ways of bringing the data together that require really nuanced ways of working. I would love you to send the data in, put it in the chat, maybe a link or whatever, or reach out to me on LinkedIn, whatever. Don't tell me what questions to ask. I'd love you to suggest a prompt that you think would throw it awry, and then we'll put that in and we'll work with that basically. Okay. So that's going to be my suggestions, but invite to everyone else just to make this video go all the way up over an hour. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.